The question is, can this broken, cracked, wobbly chair be saved? Watch as I transform it from practically unusable to good as new, step by step, using simple DIY techniques anyone can do. Hi, welcome back. I'm Joel from Madison Creations. Today, I'm going to show you how to repair a dining room chair with loose joints and a cracked leg. You don't need to be a pro, you don't need to be an experienced woodworker. Just have a little patience and know the right steps. With the seat cushion removed, let's see what we have to work with. First step for me in a repair project like this, knowing this entire chair is likely going to be disassembled, I label every single piece. I don't just put like a one, two, three, four around the sides. I label the end of each rail, style, cross piece, whatever you want to call them. I also label each side of the leg that mates to another surface. You'll see why this is important later on. Next thing I'm going to have to do, almost every single chair. Oh, look at that. You can see this chair has quite a wobble, but we'll deal with that later. First thing I have to do is get these corner blocks out of here. Almost every single chair has these corner blocks. They're almost always screwed and glued in. So you're going to take the screws out, always have a nice little parts container where you put every single screw in for each chair. And if these are glued in, they may not seem loose, but they likely will come loose because they're not going to be glued in very well once we start taking the chair apart. But the key is you have to get all of these screws out of here. Otherwise, you're going to damage the chair the way we're going to disassemble it. First, let's carefully take this chair apart. This can be a little intimidating, but it's really easy. I mean, look at these loose joints. No wonder it wobbles and she thought it was unsafe to use. I'm going to show you how to safely disassemble this without damaging it any further. First tool you're going to need is a good rubber mallet. Rubber mallet's soft enough that it won't mar the wood when you hit it, but it'll put enough force on the wood to separate the joints. I'm just going around here checking these corner blocks. I already have the screws out, which means they are glued in. If they're very sturdy and strong, I'm not going to knock them apart unless I have to, but I like to test each one out. Now you see as I test this one in the back corner, it quickly becomes loose. It was barely glued in, but it's still attached. And this is something you really have to look out for when disassembling a chair. There's a very good chance that when it started getting loose, somebody else tried to repair it. So you're going to find nails and screws where they don't belong, and that can just complicate things as you take it apart. This corner block had a nail in it, not a big deal. I caught it, I'll remove it, and we'll get this installed properly later on. So if you are a woodworker or a furniture maker, you know that most chairs are assembled with mortise and tenons or dowel pins or a combination of each. If you're not a furniture maker or woodworker, don't be intimidated. This is a great opportunity for you to learn how a chair is assembled. And you're going to see just how easy it is to disassemble it when it's this loose. So I've got my work surface protected. So this is going to protect the chair from any further damage because I'm about to start hitting it with this rubber mallet. Now you'll see here, one strike, kaplop, that came right out. The other one took a little more finessing, but don't be afraid to knock these, parts with the rubber mallet. You're not going to damage them, and you're going to watch that joint loosen up, and then this piece is just going to pop right out. Something you may not know about me, I don't think I've ever talked about it. I started my woodworking journey back in the 90s, if you can believe that, and I started working in a furniture repair and refinishing shop. So I've been repairing furniture like this for years. I got some great training, great apprenticeship during that time. So here I'm assessing that entire, I'll call it the back panel, the back legs, and all the cross pieces. And the number one rule of furniture repair is if it's not loose at all, if the glue is still holding in the joints, do not take it apart. Leave it and trust the glue will do its job. And here we are taking a look at this front section that I removed from the back section earlier. Now these joints are all loose. I know I've got to I basically have to disassemble everything here. I can wiggle them, I can see gaps in between them, I can feel they're loose. So I start tapping them with the rubber mallet and you'll see the joint, loosening more and more. And once you see it moving, you don't have to worry too much about anything going wrong. You just keep tapping, keep watching that joint come apart, and there you have it. It came right apart. And you can see here that little block still attached to the leg. That looks like another home repair. Somebody tried to tighten this up just by gluing a little block inside of there. But if it's still stuck on good, we'll leave it. Now, moving on, I'm checking this next joint, and sure enough, it is loose. Therefore, I just tap it with the rubber mallet a few times, holding it just slightly off the bench to give some room to separate. And look at that, it came apart again. Now you can see why it's so important that I have all these parts labeled. I'm starting to have parts everywhere. Let's see if this loose joint will... Oh, look at that. Another one came right apart. This is going well. Now I only have one loose joint to take apart, and we'll be able to start the next phase of this project. Now this is a little bit of a red flag. I can see the joint is loose, but it is not coming apart very well. I continue to do tappity tap tap, and then I realized there was a crack down the middle of the leg. So this was interesting. This is actually a set of 6 chairs that I'm repairing for the client. And I think 3 of them so far, I still have a couple left, 3 of them have had a crack, a vertical crack in the front right leg as you're sitting in the chair. I didn't notice it in this one, but now I have definitely noticed it. This is just one of those interesting challenges that you're going to come across from time to time when you're repairing an older chair. So the joint itself is still loose. However, there was a hairline crack that I did not notice that I've now obviously exaggerated by hitting it with the mallet. So I have a loose joint and a crack. I want to preserve this as much as possible and not just tear it to pieces like a wild animal, but I still have to get the joint apart so I can re-glue it. So I'm going to get a little creative here. Since the mallet's too large to try and tap this apart, I'm using a wood, and the key here is to use a softer scrap of wood than the wood that the chair is made out of. And I'm tapping this apart, putting some focused pressure right by that joint. Now, it still didn't come apart perfectly clean, but we're making progress. All right, so you can see with a few more taps, I got the joint apart, although there are some broken pieces attached to it. Well, but it's not a big deal. We can deal with that. We still need to get this joint taken apart. So let's see what we can do with that. So this may be looking like a little bit of a disaster or a panic moment, but honestly, we're just gonna have to glue this back up. It's clean breaks. With the proper glue and the proper clamping, this will go back together and still be super strong. You can see how loose this actual joint was. That just came right apart. Now with all our little parts saved, we're gonna figure out how to glue Humpty back together again. So because this project threw us a curveball, the first thing we're gonna have to address is this leg that had a crack and a few pieces broke off of it. As you recall, a big piece of it didn't actually break off. It just cracked down the middle. So without removing it, I want to work some wood in, or not wood, I want to work some glue into the seam of that crack and get it clamped back up. So let me show you a little trick I did with that. What you see me doing here is just a quick dry run, if you will. There's no glue in that joint. I'm just putting a clamp on it just like I plan to when I do glue it up. But I first want to make sure everything does line up and that there will be no issues gluing this piece in once the actual glue is applied. All right, show you that trick now. You can see me holding this joint apart as much as I can without breaking it any further. I'm squeezing some glue in there. It's probably about an 1/8 inch gap. Now I am going to use a little compressed air and actually blow the glue further into this joint. I want as much glue in there as possible to make those surfaces. If you don't have an air compressor, another trick you can do is take a small piece of paper and just slowly wick that glue down into that crack while you hold it apart with your fingers, and you'll be surprised how much glue you'll be able to get into that joint. And once I'm satisfied with the amount of glue in there, I took 2 clamps, squeezed it together, wiped off all the excess. It's much easier to clean up this Type Bond 3 glue on a finished leg like this just by using a wet paper towel. And then you let it dry. I let it dry overnight, but yeah, I think you could only you could probably give it an hour and it'd be ready for the next step. The next day, I set the piece free from the clamping pressure and I examined the work. And as you can see here, this right here is the crack that we glued up. You can barely see it. It's a little bit noticeable, but hardly. And here from the top, you can also see the joint came together well. Next, we have to deal with this piece that did come completely off. We're just going to do a test fit to make sure it fits properly. If it does not, do a little sanding, maybe trimming with a chisel. And once it is properly fit, we will determine which glue to use to secure it to the leg. Took a little patience, a little time to get this piece to seat perfectly, but it was well worth it. I had to do a little trimming with the chisel, and I used a sharp box knife to trim some of the fibers just to make sure this seated completely where it needed to. Once I was happy with the fit, I followed my rule that I always follow. I did a dry run without glue, got everything clamped up, made sure there were minimum gaps and that the piece was going to seat completely. If you are new to these kind of projects, one of the things you're going to learn with experience is which type of glue to use for what kind of joint. Before, with the very tight joint, wood-to-wood surfaces mating perfectly with no gaps, I used the Tight Bond 3 wood glue that you see here on the right. For this particular joint, there are a few gaps. It's not a perfect fit because I did have to remove some of the wood fibers that were torn or crushed. So this time I am using epoxy, which you see here just to the left of the other wood glue. This takes a little longer cure. I don't like to be rushed with epoxy, so I'm using this T88. I'm going to put some wax paper between my clamps and the joint so the clamps don't get glued to the leg. And I'm going to let it sit overnight, and this joint will be ready for the next step. Now we're moving on to a little bit more of the traditional reassembly portion of this project. I've got the two front legs. I'm going to kind of make a sub-assembly. The back piece, if you recall, we didn't take apart at all. So I'm going to glue the two front legs together, and then I'll glue those to the back piece after this glue dries. All you got to do is make sure everything fits properly, clean up any joints necessary with a wire brush or sandpaper, and then I'm going to use, again, the Tight Bond 3 to reassemble this chair. Now, I do want you to notice something here. This is why this chair came apart in the first place. Was it like, I haven't touched this dowel yet. Let's get in here. Like, there's a little bit of glue in each of the grooves of the dowel, and there's none here. And if I look in the hole in the mortise, there's nothing. And again, just to stress, before assembly, you want to clean these joints very well. You want to use a wire brush, a sharp chisel, small knife, anything you have to do to remove any old excess glue, and most importantly, to make sure this joint goes back together perfectly. We're going to get the joints cleaned out. We're going to do a test fit as always, and then we'll do a final glue up and clamping. I'm just going to take a chisel. A lot of times when you knock these apart, nothing's breaking, but it's rough. Like you can see where the screws, they weren't possibly pre-doped properly. So the screws have pulled the grain up here. It's very rough. Same here. It's just a little bit of residual glue. I just smooth all this out. I use a chisel because I don't want to sand, because sand is going to scratch this finish. This chisel real light. It's just going to clean up anything raised up. I've cleaned up every joint. I've cleaned up all these surfaces like I showed you before with a chisel. Just make sure everything's smooth. All the rest are done. So now, one of the most important steps that many people skip is the dry fit and assembly. I am doing this on my table saw because it has a perfectly flat surface, and I'm using no glue. I'm simply putting every single piece back together. I will clamp it. I will ensure it is square, stable, flat, level, and all the joints fit properly. So when I do use glue, I will be able to have the confidence that it'll go back together just as it should. So, dry fit time. Got the back. Lay this down. Three and two. Honestly, can't really do this wrong, but I like to keep that straight. Running up. Should be a snug fit. It should seat fully. I like it when I hear that pop and it goes in. Always a game how you're going to be able to clamp something like this. Could make custom angle blocks, could all sorts of things. I'm hoping the others have just come together, so I'm really hoping this one will too. Oh, it's already moving. Ah, yeah. Oh yeah. I didn't quite take our wobble out, but get the other side tightened up. See, joints coming together nicely, so we'll check the wobble, check the level. Also possible that it's because of the uneven metal feet. They're old and not very consistent. All right, I've got my dry run complete here. There's no glue in these joints, just dry clamped. And if you recall, there was a wobble in this chair prior to me starting this project. And although it is less pronounced right now, I'm noticing there is still a little bit of unevenness in this chair. So I'm going to show you a trick for that. Okay. Just to explain what I had going on, chair, when I put it in the dry clamps, well, now I moved it again. Part of my wobble earlier was how I have my clamps positioned. It's very important to not be putting any strange torque on the project. There's a couple ways to avoid that in the glue up, and I'm going to show you the one I usually use. So right now I just took the clamps off. I started to take this apart and then realized I wasn't recording. So slightly off now. I've got about a 1/16 of an inch underneath one of these legs causing this wobble. Very small amount. Depending on where I put my clamps, depending on how I tighten them, I could either make it worse or I can make it go away. One way to ensure it goes away and the chair functions properly, because the table's perfectly flat, is to put some weight up here. Now it's flat, now there's no wobble. Then close your clamps ever so carefully and ensure you're not putting any off torque on the joints. Let it cure with the weight on it. Then when you remove everything, it should stay as it was. So that, my friends, is what we're gonna do. So there you have it. I explained my little trick there. I'm about to do the actual glue up now. I've chosen to use hide glue on this just because technically that glue is reversible. If I made a mistake, if something did not go right, I could actually take these parts back apart again by introducing some heat and some moisture into the joints. Now, I've personally never done that. I'm curious if you would like to see a video on hide glue specifically and its pros and cons. I'd be happy to do that. But because these are good wood to wood joints, I'm very confident that this is a great strong glue to use. So with that, I am going to get everything glued up. We're going to keep fast forwarding through this. I'm going to use my weight trick once I get the chair all together. I'm going to put an 80-pound weight on the seat. It is going to ensure that 1/16 of an inch or so wobble that I had is removed. I'm going to tighten the clamps, make sure all the joints come together well. I will clean up all the glue squeeze out with a nice moist paper towel. And finally, my friends, this project is coming close to an end. Let the glue dry overnight. We're going to see if this chair is flat and level or if I have a whole lot of work to do. Let's get this weight off of here. Ah! It used to be lighter when I was younger. Not wobbling yet. Truth is, when you take the clamps off. All right. See what we got. Oh, there is no wobble in this chair. Gaps are completely closed. Joints look good. Not a lot of glue cleanup. All we got to do is put these remaining corner blocks in. And we have a great solid chair again. Ah, very nice. Makes me happy. Always makes me a little nervous, but it makes me happy. All right, I'm just going to show you real quick. So all that remains, we've got our number 2 corner block that needs to go in, and our number 3. All I do is put a little glue on these. Make sure they're going to fit. I got to scrape this one still. But I'll make sure they dry fit flush. Put a little glue on them, screw them back in, and this chair will be ready for a final cleanup. I'm wiggling it on the top right now, pushing it on the back. Literally no wobble. Everything looks square from the front. Checks out square. So I'm pretty happy. Glue up complete, repair complete. Got a little work to do on the brass nails up here. Tighten those up so these don't wobble. But we're close to done. And the final step I always do, and this was not asked for by the client, but I always teach my kid, do more than people expect you to do. And so I'm going to show you an example of what I do when I get a chair like this. You can see, hopefully, I'm going to just scan up this chair. You can see all the wear and tear, the worn out legs. So when the finish is worn off, if I scroll along the front here, you can see this isn't a defect in the finish. This is just life at home, life with kids. See how the front right leg, and it's just stuff. It doesn't scratch off with your hand, but I'm going to show you how I clean all the chairs up that I work on. Back right leg, here's a great example. This in the right light. You can see up here we got marker, maybe a little paint. Not sure what's happening here. Not sure what's going on up here. That might be all the same. Whatever it is, it's on the inside rail here. I'll show you what I do. Very quick, simple method to give the customer give their chair
a facelift without a whole lot of extra work, but they'll be very thankful when you do it because it looks so much better when it's done. Look at this back leg, a different angle. The looks like paint. Again, don't know what this is. Scroll down here. See if the foot finish is totally just worn out. You know, vacuums hit that. Who knows what else happens? It's just wear and tear. But I'm going to give it a facelift. I'm going to show you how. I'm going to send this out the door. Chair is completely glued up, completely repaired. I still have to tighten up the nails on these brass pieces, but it was discussed with the client. I'm not cleaning that brass or anything, so I don't have to touch that. So technically, I've done everything I was asked to do. I could put the cushion back on this chair, bring it to the client. They'd be completely happy. Moving on to the next set of chairs because I think there's three more. I have 3 left. But I think I mentioned earlier something I always try and instill in my child, something I've always believed in, and that is do a little bit more than people expect of you. Especially helpful when dealing with clients. Now, this client is actually a friend of mine. Fantastic. Don't have to worry about any issues. However, I always like to do a little extra. So I showed you all the spots on this that are wear and tear, I would say, for lack of a better term. And I want to do my best to just clean this chair up. So not only is it now sturdy with no wobbles, completely glued up, it will also have a fresh looking finish because I'm certainly not going to actually refinish it. Product I use for that is Howard's Restor-A-Finish. And then I'll put a final coat just to give a nice soft feel of the Howard Feed and Wax. I always put an S at the end of that. It's Howard, not Howard's. Because it's Howard's. Anyway, Howard Restor-A-Finish. I'll probably talk about this a little more, the voiceover, explain kind of more how this works. Right now, I'm just going to show you some before, during, and after shots of what this product can do for you. It's really a great time saver. I know if you watch my cutting board finishing video, I was certainly not impressed with Howard Finish for their cutting board oil or their butcher block. However, this to repair finishes or to clean finishes up that have been scuffed up, scratched, it's fantastic. I'll show you just how easy it is to use. Check it out. All right, here I am. I'm still set up to work on my table saw. I've got something underneath it to prevent any drips. The only reason I'm doing this is because my daughter's ukulele kit is covering my MFT, and that is usually where I do this type of work because I don't have an assembly table yet. Anyway, I showed you this is the front rail. I don't know what this is. I didn't ask the client. I have no idea. It doesn't just scrape off, but we're going to use the Howard Restor-A-Finish and some 4/0 steel wool, and we're just going to put a little bit on the steel wool, wipe it on here, and we'll see what happens. Like I said, this stuff's pretty amazing, so I think you'll be impressed. All right, now I am careful how long this stays on. This you can mess the finish up with this. You'd have to work at it. It's pretty user friendly, but just know I'm going to wipe this on. I'm going to do small sections. I might do this rail and this 2 legs, but for video purposes, I'm just going to do little pieces at a time. But I would do small sections of the chair, maybe 2 legs, front rail, side rails, then back piece all at once possibly. But I like to wipe it on, remove the blemishes or color the blemishes that I need to deal with, and then wipe it right off just with regular paper towels. Let's see what it does with this front rail. Don't need much, a little bit on the steel wool. The spots are going away. Now you may have noticed I use the golden oak Restor-A-Finish. It is a very good match with this. I found it's a really good match with a lot of furniture from this time. That is part of the secret, is it does have color. So you can see the spots here, and you can see this is all scratched, scuffed up. Let me turn that a little bit. Don't spill this. Do this whole corner. You can see just how well this works. Put these spots on here. The old wool is slightly abrasive, so it helps remove any of this schmutz that's on here. And because this is colored, it fills in any of the scratches here. You can't see that. I'll show you that later. Got some scratches on the bottom. Can't move the camera because my gloves have goo on them. But you can see whatever this stuff's pretty tough. Whatever. I don't know what was spilled on here or splashed or painted on. Struggling to get it off. But this stuff is working. Where you have to be careful is, like, if I find a spot that's too tough, this is glue or whatever it is. I have no idea what it is. But if I can't get it off, I don't want to scratch too much because this is abrasive enough, and the Restor-A-Finish dissolves the finish just a little bit. There it goes. So I don't want to. I could actually rub through the finish by the time I wipe this off. It would not look so good. All right. So there. You saw a little work I did to that. Now you see what it looks like. You do want to wipe it off. Nice and dry. Let it evaporate. I'm going to wipe off the parts of this front leg that I did, even though I got 2 more sides to do. And there, restored. So, if you're anything like me, you might be sitting there thinking to yourself, self, what is it that's in this can of magical stuff that is restoring this finish to a like new look? It's like the magic eraser of stuff in a can. Well, I did a little research and let me see if I can give it to you in layman's terms. So basically, what this Howard Restore finish is a blend of petroleum-based solvents, kind of like mineral spirits or naphtha, as well as natural oils and pigments that penetrate and restore old wood finishes without stripping them off. The solvents soften the existing finish just enough to let the pigments and oils blend away the scratches and blemishes, but preserving the original character of the furniture. However, it's not for use on raw wood, painted surfaces, or a newer, flawless modern finish like a fresh coat of polyurethane or a water based poly. Always test on a small spot first. And let me know in the comments below if you want me to do a more thorough review and how to using this product. All right, before we do our very last finishing touches on this, 2 other tricks I want to show you. Something you should have on hand if you're doing any kind of furniture repair, refinishing, is a touch-up marker. This one obviously is golden oak, and a fill stick. This is basically a wax stick. I'll show you how to use each one of these. This just helps fill little cracks, nail holes, anything like that, any surface blemishes you want to try and smooth out. And this is going to fill up or fill in, this touch-up marker is going to fill in any kind of bare wood spots like this. So I'll bring it in a little closer to show you how I use these for the final touch-up. These are both Varathane brand. I think Minwax makes them. There's some other companies. I don't really think it matters which one you use. They all seem to work pretty well. So let's get in closer and I'll show you what this looks like. Okay, we're gonna try and touch up this little scratch or gouge I have back here using the Varathane touch-up marker. It's got a tip that just is loaded with, I think it's stain and finish. Just get it kind of preloaded here. And paint it in. It's not going to be perfect, but it will darken it just a little bit. And then we'll leave it alone. Again, this is extra stuff I do. It's not required. I should say it was not requested by the client. They didn't say fix the scratches, make it look better. But any place I see that has a little scratch, let's go around and do this final touch up. Again, it's in the details. The chair is gonna look awesome when she gets it back. So I'll do this final touch up anywhere I can. I think I've got it all. And there was one little spot I want to use the wax stick to fill it up. See if I can get you in for that. Next, I've got a little crack to fill here. I'll zoom in on it here in a minute. Going to use a Varathane fill stick. Again, it's just kind of like a waxy stick. Different ways you can apply these. I'll show you how I do it. You could just take and work this into this little crack here if you had to. What I like to do is take an old X-Acto knife, heat it up, and it'll melt this stick. And then I take that melted wax and just apply it with my X-Acto blade. So before I zoom in, I think I have a little butane lighter. I'll just heat this up real quick. And I can scrape a little wax off of here. Let's see. It's melting onto my X-Acto knife. Now that I have wax on here, I'll work that into my crack. This goes on so much better when it's soft. Use that to scrape off a little more wax. Now we'll work that wax into this little crack. Here my blade's not really reaching, so another option is just to heat the wax itself just a little. Get that nice and soft. We can just work it right in like that. Do that one more time. Gonna have to block your view a second here. You don't have to be super clean with it because it's gonna wipe off. So there you have it. Wax stick is applied. Now what I'll do is let that dry just for a minute. All right, it's been literally less than 2 minutes. I've just got a regular razor blade. Carefully without scratching the finish. Kind of use this like a little scraper. That wax is sticking up higher than the finish. Scrape this off. This is just for the high spots. You gotta be careful not to scratch the finish. So if you're not comfortable doing this, it's no problem. Take a microfiber towel and you literally buff this wax off of here. Don't have the same effect. Gotta push pretty hard, but this will rub all that wax off of here except for what's left in the little crack. I think we got it. Again, it's not perfection,
but it's better. Let's grab our touch-up marker. See if it'll have any impact on this. I don't know if it will. Okay, we are on the home stretch. I applied a coat of the Howard Feed and Wax all over the chair. That's just kind of a wood conditioner. It gives it a nice sheen, a nice feel to the hand. I wipe it on with an old t-shirt. I wipe it off about 2 hours later. You can even let it sit overnight and then wipe it off. So I had already applied it here. Now I'm just buffing it off, making sure everything's nice and clean. You're going to see me reattach the brad nails that are holding the brass pieces on top of the chair. Those were just a little loose. Some of the brads had fallen out and needed to be replaced. So I just put a little glue and a little super glue in each nail hole, put the brads back in, tighten them up so nothing is wobbling or loose up there. And then what else did I do? Well, of course, my daughter always likes to help. She ensured the cushion was as clean as possible. Again, we weren't asked to do any of this extra cleanup work. It's just something I like to do for all my clients. And then the cushion got assembled, put back on the chair. It's attached with 4 screws. And you know what? I think that's it. This chair has been repaired. So check this out. I mean, seriously, this is a transformation from wobbly, cracked, unusable to sturdy and beautiful. If I could do this, so can you. Now, if you found this helpful, hit like and subscribe and share your own DIY stories in the comments below. Oh, and please let me know if you want more projects like this, or if you want me to break down some of the techniques I did in this video in even more detail in a separate video. Just let me know in the comments below. I would love to do it. Thanks for watching. Can't wait to see you next time.